The Tab Everest. Mare off and racing. Think about it, Private Eye. I wish I win. Think about it in front from I wish I win. Think about it.
I wish I win on the outside, grabbing the lead, and I wish I win one from Nipotina.
Here she comes, Jolly Star, shot away. Ease down, Jolly Star. She is a star in the making.
Hello everyone, welcome to Trek to the Everest. Tonight a very special announcement coming up. A new horse into the Tab Everest for 2024. Ray Thomas, Chantel Buckley and Chris Roots are here to look at that announcement and also the racing from the weekend where Sunshine in Paris was absolutely brilliant.
She was, and she's virtually in the race now. Not official, but of course the owner, John Camilleri, holds that slot, the Fairway Thoroughbreds for Sunshine in Paris. So Chantel, she was so impressive in the Scirocco. We just tick her up as a Everest runner now.
I'm so excited to see how much she'll improve because she had so much improvement with her. She was fit enough to win like she did, but just listening to Tommy Berry's post-race comments and what he said about her, it's amazing to think that we're going to see so much more from her.
And just the coat, it was still a bit hairy,
yeah, she
wasn't
still
it?
looked like she'd been relishing the winter. But that'll come through. She's got 5 weeks now, but really I think she's the most exciting one at this stage.
Chris Roots, the 3-year-old picture is still a bit murky though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you'll find Traffic Warden will be there now. It's he'll go to a Golden Rose with stablemate Broadsiding. They're battling for favouritism, and I think he's done enough that if they want to sprint him and split them up, the Golden Rose is so well placed now. You can go Everest, you can go to a Cox Plate path. So you know they'll split them after the Golden Rose. Hopefully they'll have one will be a winner and one will be pretty close to running a place. Godolphin's wise. Back in the field, Emirate probably didn't run up to the expectations. You would have thought if it got a placing, it might have been in the Chris Waller conversation. I think that's going to be Jolly Star now. She was an absolute forgive on the weekend. She jumped too well from the barriers, and then Ciaron got in an awkward situation where he had Sunshine in Paris and Tommy was able to dictate to him, and he was going back when she was going forward. And the ground he gave up was probably the difference in the race. I think she's right in the race, and she's probably the best value in the race at the moment.
Well, we have another horse into the Tab Everest mix, and it is for the Tab slot. Nipotina has been chosen by the Tab to fill their slot, trained by Ciaron Maher and ridden by Craig Williams. So here's how it looks right now with these slots. And we have I Wish I Win for Trackside Media and Bustling for the Whitby, Madden and Werrett camp, but more on Bustling later in the show. He was disappointing in the Run to the Rose. Sunshine in Paris not officially in, but she is the pick for Fairway Thoroughbreds. And the Tab now officially announcing that Nipotina is into the field. 7-year-old mare. She has run in 23 Group 1 races. Amazing. 23 individual Group 1 races for 3 wins, 6 seconds and 2/3. Her Group 1 wins, the Manikato, the 10,000 and the Tiara. In fact, there was 18 months between her first Group 1 win and her second, but look at all those great races she ran in between.
She's just a model of consistency, isn't she? She's one tough girl.
Iron Lady, I call her.
She's an iron lady. She is, that's the perfect
She's an Iron Lady. And she's actually, we'll talk to Ciaron Maher later, I think she's coming off a career best season.
She is,
and
yeah.
her first
she's like
up
a
Concord,
red, isn't she? Getting better with age.
Yeah, and her first up Concord run, when you can run 31.81, you're closing 600, you are humming.
I think with her, she's changed. When she was a 3-year-old running in Group 1 races, she was a lean athlete. Now she's turned into that big, bold sprinter. I think Craig Williams has spoken about this before, that she's changed in the last 12 months and she's really matured. And the great thing with mares, we get to see them right at their full maturity. And she might have taken the 6 to mature, and we're going to see the best of her during this spring now.
Well, let's find out how she looks, because Ali Mosley was in Port Stephens this morning, north of Newcastle, to see the Tab's entrant for the Tab Everest, Nipotina.
Thanks, Greg. We've come down to Anna Bay Beach. So she's based here, Bella Nipotina, up at Bob's Farm. She gets on the truck in the morning and she comes down here and she does a beautiful trot up the sand, and then she finishes with a light piece of canter work. And then to top it off, she has a little play in the sea afterwards, which we had some shots of. But wow, she's in super order this prep. So last time in the autumn and winter, she ran in 8 Group 1s in 4 different states. She is a seriously tough mare. She had a bit of sun on her back in Queensland, where she was just an absolute marvel. She's often overlooked, and that's probably why she didn't get a slot in the Everest last year. She was right on the cusp, but she's right in contention this time. She's beautiful in the skin, as you would expect. She's come through from that Queensland winter in really lovely order. And here where she's trained, it's a really different environment, so it's great for her mental health. She's got a bit of sass about her. I will just watch my feet as I say that. But she's come through her run in the Concord over 1,000 metres, which was short of her best trip, in super order. We see her in the Premier, where she runs next. She's stepping out to a more suitable distance, but she's tough, she's versatile. And this prep, she's really filled into herself. She's really come on. You can see through her hind, she's strengthened up in the shoulder. She's standing so beautifully for us at the moment. But how good's this? And how good is it to have this girl in our Tab Everest slot?
Well, Shani, doesn't she look beautifully there, sparkling in the sun? Yep,
exactly. We saw her in Queensland a few times and she looked brilliant up there. And she only had a little bit of time in between. And she hasn't got that winter look about her. She looked beautiful when she stepped out at Randwick a couple of weeks ago, and she's absolutely thriving, isn't she?
And joining us on the show is her trainer, Ciaron Maher. Congratulations, you're in the Everest.
No, thank you very much. Fortunate that the TAB selected her, and myself and the team are very excited.
Well, are we going to see her on Saturday, or are you going to wait until the premiere before we see her again?
No, we'll wait till the premiere, similar to last year, and then step up to 1,200 and then 2 weeks into the Everest.
Ciaron, she's a 7-year-old mare. She's had over 50 starts, but is she getting better? Because she's coming off a career best season, and that was an outstanding return in the Concord.
Yeah, she's quite amazing. She had a busy end to the year, but you would arguably say that like you said, career best form. You take a line through I wish I win, being a sort of an inch either way, and then freshening up back to the 1,000 and doing what she does seem to be getting better.
How do you manage a mare like her? Because she went to Perth, then she went to Brisbane and had several runs up there, and she's only had the 8 weeks between her next run. What do you do with her? I know you keep her up at the beach, but is she just one that you don't pour a lot of work into, or is she hard to manage?
We have to manage her feet fairly well, and she does. She has had over 50 starts, so. She does take a little bit of managing, but the main thing is probably just the soft conditions of the beach. She probably does more work every day than the average and less galloping, and she seems to thrive on that.
Ciaron, you went to Brisbane, you probably thought you might have 2 runs, you ended up with 2 Group 1s and a couple of Group 1 placings. Did she shock you how well she handled it at the end of the last season?
Given that she'd gone to Perth and raced on a firm deck, come back, I thought that might have, taken a little bit of toll on her somewhere in terms of just how she was. But she really did surprise me how well she went. She settled into a routine up there. We were fortunate enough that I'm good friends with Tony Golan, and I could just settle her into sort of the routine up there. She went out to Embrook and back in after each run and did a piece of work, and just seemed to thrive on that system as well. She's always seen well in Queensland.
How difficult is it as a horse trainer to get a horse to go all over the country? And she's been to Perth twice, she's raced in Adelaide. She's been up and down the highway, Sydney to Melbourne. She's been to Brisbane. Average horses can't do that.
No, you're right. They need the constitution. They need, they've just got to be very adaptable, I suppose. And she does have a very good constitution. From her first run to her second run in Queensland, it was only 2 weeks apart, and I think she got away on me a little bit. And that's sort of the mare she is. 2 weeks is a long time for her. Like, she had 2 weeks after her 4 runs in Queensland, and she looked like she could have stood at stud. She looked that well. So yeah, she's quite amazing, but she's probably in better form than what she was last year. Last year she was on the getting, really fortunate that she can pop in this year. And also, if you do happen to get a Ciaron, she often finds her best that way as well. But the other day she couldn't have been any better on top of the ground.
Yeah, well, all the focus obviously on Nipotina, but you did win that race with I Am Me, who broke 56 for the 1,000 to win the Concord. She's entered for Saturday. Do we see her in the shorts, and is she a chance to get to the Everest, Ciaron?
She's definitely a chance. She just had the slightly better run. There's never been much between these two mares. I think they've raced 3 times. I think I Am Me's beat her home each time. She will go to the shorts on Saturday, possibly even their premiere as well. And she did a piece of work on Monday, and she seems to be in great order. So I think she should run right up to form, and it's got a super chance on Saturday. Another handy horse you have in the stable, Estriella. What did you think of her first up run, and what's her preparation looking like? She had a bit of a tough run. She sort of had to work pretty well the whole race, and she was beaten 0.8. So she'll go to the Manicato now. Her plan is still firmly the Everest, and I think she'll improve a lot off her first up run, and I think up to the 1,200 around the valley, a little bit nice to run. She should show that she's got the quality needed.
One of the most talked about horses in Australia at the moment is Growing Empire. At the start of the prep, I think it was all systems go to a Coolmore, but have you changed your mind? Could we see this horse racing for Yulong in an Everest?
Possibly. I've got to have a chat to Vin and the Yulong team this week. He certainly can run well. So being a colt, the idea would, if he went to a Manicato and was successful there, ticked off his Group 1, you could well see him in an Everest. He's a colt that every time he races, he seems to be winning with a little bit in hand, and Mark certainly echoes that as well.
What happens if the Everest has made a Group 1 before it's run? Would that make a decision easier?
Well, possibly. He's a very progressive 3-year-old colt. The original plan was going to be the Beside and the Danehill, and then have a crack at the Coolmore. But the way he's won his last 2, a Group 1 is everything for these colts, as you know. So that would make a difference.
And Ciaron, what about Pride of Jenni? Obviously, it was great to see her back to very close to her best last Saturday in the Mackay Diva. Is she still on track for the King Charles?
Craig Williams just ringing me there, actually.
He wants to know too, probably.
Pride of Jenni, great. It was a super race on Saturday. Even though she got beat right back to form, and Deck just said that on that track, he just couldn't. He said he was trying to ask her to go quicker, sort of in the mid stages of the race, and he sort of felt her wheels were spinning a little bit. But the plan at this stage is still firmly on the King Charles.
That's great. You've got to forgive a good horse one bad run, don't you? Never more evident in the case of her.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it probably wasn't surprising that she got beat first up. You look at her record, it's not surprising. But, probably just the distance was a concerning part. But the howling wind, it's hard to know how much, that took its toll. She had some temperature, blood was slightly out. Maybe it could have been that as well, or the combination. Like you said, a good forgive them.
Ciaron, thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing Bella Nipotina in the premiere in a couple of weeks. Good luck on the weekend. Good luck in the Everest.
Thanks very much.
There's Ciaron Maher. We'll take a break. We'll come back with that man who was on the phone, Craig Williams, who's going to be riding Bella Nipotina in the Tab Everest. So from the trainer Ciaron Maher to the jockey Craig Williams joining us on Trek to the Everest. You must have been excited, Craig, when you heard the news that Bella Nipotina was in the race.
I certainly am excited. She's going to be a worthy entrant, and it's delighted that the TAB, who is the funding model for our racing in Australia, has chosen her as their seed.
We've spoken to Ciaron about her maturity, her development. She's now 7. How have you seen her change?
Physically, she's just, you can't believe it. She's got stronger and bigger, and the sizes of horses for jockeys is the girth that we put out for them. And she went from a small to a medium. Usually they're going from a medium to a small, but she doesn't. Her performance, she's showing everyone how good she is as a racehorse, and consistently all the time. And as a rider, you can see that development in her. And I have just, even when she drew off the track in the Stradbroke, I was just that confident with her. She's just easy for a jockey. Once she decides on how far she leaves the gates and where she wants to be, she gives me as a rider a lot of options. And when she gets really rain-affected tracks, I even have a lot more. She has a lot more arsenal, and I have a lot more options.
We heard from Ciaron Maher earlier. Craig, she'll go straight to the Premier Stakes as a final lead up into the Everest. But with this mare you just touched on, she's bomb-proof, isn't she? Wet or dry tracks, barrier draws don't seem to bother her, tempo of races, she's got that incredible ability to reel off these out-of-this-world sectionals. She is bomb-proof going to an Everest.
Yeah, and it's also, Ray, it's her great will to win. It's amazing because you say that she's bomb-proof and doesn't worry her, but when we're doing our planning and strategising, it certainly worries us, but doesn't worry her. So she is quite a remarkable racehorse. And to do it at that level, you don't have too many horses that, have won 3 Group 1s, as you say, dry, wet. The fact that she's only been out to the 1400 now twice, ran second in the Stradbroke and won a Group 1, it just shows you that the calibre horse and the options that they have. But again, she's matured, she's been really well managed, developed, and she's never raced in such great, consistent form as what she's been doing now and in the last 12 months, in the last 6 months completely.
I read an article or a quote that you stated, it was only a few weeks ago, and you described her as if she was a lady going out to a nightclub, she'd have the black nail polish, the black lipstick, and she'd be decked out in all black. Why does she give you that feeling?
She's just so tenacious and so sassy. She's actually changed a little bit. You can actually give her a bit of a pat, a cuddle and a kiss now and she's okay. But if you try that and she's not in the mood, well, she shows you. She bares her teeth at you, and even if horses come up near her, I think what makes her a great racehorse, the way that she just lays back her ears and just doesn't want them to go past her, and she's got an amazing ability to go with that as well. So yeah. But I did see her at the beach in your introduction reel, and I realised that she doesn't wear black bathers and all that, but I'm pretty sure she's enjoying the warm weather of New South Wales. And I love your set at the moment with the Everest backdrop. it's really great, but mind you, that set is just normal day here in Melbourne. The light you see coming through, that's just a heat lamp here in Victoria. And I had a scarf on my desk and I've even hidden it away and a big fur throw over because it's been so cold down here. So we're looking forward to getting up to Sydney and racing up there through the spring.
I hope that was a Sydney Swan scarf too, Craig, so you can show you some colours. Mate, you've been to most of the Everests now and been part of this story progressing. How surprised are you at how quickly this race has developed into an event like it is now? And on the day, how does it compare with the biggest race days you've ridden in?
I've ridden in 3 of them now, so we just hadn't had the right horses before, and it would have been a sin to think that you would miss a Caulfield Cup or a Caulfield Guineas Day to go and ride in Sydney on that time. And I think the competition is healthy. I think it's great. It sometimes makes it hard for jockeys because we can only be in one place at a time. And I guess that's the same with your trainers, and then with the volume of top horses that we have, they can only really compete one weekend in one place, and it's not easy for them to back up and travel. Not to say that they don't, but it makes it a bit more of a challenge, or it gives them a different options to go with now. But to see the Everest evolve, racing has been traditionally built on tradition in history, and we know the normal races leading up for good horses that get you to a Cox Plate or gets you to a Melbourne Cup, or even to the Golden Slipper. That hasn't changed, a Doncaster and Epsom. But having these other options, and of course having big prize money, new races, it's really given people and jockeys, trainers, owners a great more options. But the Everest has really put racing on the map for a different demographic of people. And to say that we've got our greatest race, the Melbourne Cup, that stops the nation, is now targeted from around the world. The Everest now, in only the few years it's been running, has really captivated audiences. And that's obviously because the promotion. I remember a good friend of mine, Michael Kyle in Queensland, he said he went to his son's soccer match, and then the parents were saying, "Oh, are you riding in the Everest?" It's like later that day in a different state. And he said, so it's captivating people that never even watch racing. So for me, I reckon it's fantastic.
Your record in the Everest, you rode in the inaugural Everest on Vega Magic in 2017 for a second. Then you didn't come back to the Everest until you won it on Giga Kick in 2022, and then last year on Alcohol Free. Now, Giga Kick came with a scintillating burst, a horse that we didn't really know. We know Bella Nipotina so well. How do you think she goes about winning an Everest?
I thought 12 months ago, the way that she was racing, that she would run top 5 in an Everest. So you could arguably say if you can run top 5 with all luck and conditions, you can actually win those races. But Ciaron Maher had a really good strategy and plan. He said, I couldn't guarantee she'd win it, but with the incentive to have her sprinters racing in a couple of the races up in Sydney, she ended up going through a carnival, winning the Giga Kick Stakes at Rose Hill, and also getting all those bonuses. So he placed her so well last year. Now, he's not hiding her anymore. He knows that she's ready, she's stronger, she's developed. Her ability has come on probably from that preparation and that confidence. And now he knows he's got a worthy contender going into this year's Everest. So that's how I'm approaching it this year with a horse. And again, if we get Melbourne weather, we'll say, you get a rain-affected track, it only enhances her chances in the race. But again, it's going to be a great race because it always is, and they're the best sprinters in Australia, which we know how well regarded and how our sprinters compete overseas and how big they're respected. We've got the best sprinters in the world.
Just on what Craig's saying, these are her stats. Heavy track, 6 starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds. Soft track, 16 starts, 2 wins, 8 placings. And on top of the ground, 31 times for 4 wins and 14 placings.
And the ability to reel off brilliant sections.
That's right. Yeah. So it doesn't. The conditions don't matter.
Don't matter, yeah. What about the race itself, Craig? I think it suits a horse like Bella Nipotina. What I'm trying to say is the pressure's on from the start. It's a frenetic tempo, and her best wins is when she stalked and ambushed horses late. So does a race set up perfectly for a horse or a sprinter like Bella Nipotina?
I think you got to be adaptable. They're the best sprinters, so there's pressure throughout, and if there isn't, then they still all run really quick times. They're bloody good horses. Yeah. It's at weight for age, so there is no advantage. 3-year-olds have had a really good run in the race, so obviously a really good, tough, seasoned 3-year-old already has to be, you have to respect them as well in the race. And there you go, the 2 horses that she beat home, they might have had their grand final to start before, but the way she got out at that last bit, took the small gap and accelerated, she's that quality horse, but you have to be good to win in Everest. You can't just, you don't fluke winning in Everest, I don't think.
I'm interested to know, do you have any superstitions you do with this mare, or even a horse like Mr. Brightside, a horse that you've known, these horses that you've had so many rides on, do you do anything pre-race, give them an extra prelim, or I don't know, do you do anything, just something out of the ordinary with them?
It's a lot easier riding them, I'm sure, than riding horses at Cranbourne and Sandown and all that don't have their ability. When you know the horses so well, and I can have, as I keep saying all the time, especially Brightside, and known him for so long, and same with Nipotina. I guess, the first time I jumped on her back was I galloped her one day for Ciaron on the Gold Coast. I went, geez, I like her, but I was trying to ride the stablemate. I thought the stablemate was better. And Ciaron goes, no, yours is okay. And I actually got held up and should have won the race, and the stablemate won the race at Eagle Farm that time. And then I won on her at Caulfield. And what you said before, she just usually, you could coil her up like a spring, wait for that gap, and she was phenomenal. But her acceleration was blistering, but only short. Then she got stronger and developed, and then you can actually trust her a lot more. And also remembering that the higher you go up the ladder, the opposition get a lot tougher. So you can't have too many weaknesses against better horses. Always you're running well and not winning, and that's what they've been able to do with her, is develop her over a period of time. And then as a rider, it just gives me so much confidence. But Ciaron would sum up perfectly well. He just says she has an acceleration to here, but on softer ground, her acceleration goes to there, and that's very accurate. That's how I'd easily sum her up. But again, she can run on good trees and still perform like that because she's such a warrior.
There's no other sport like it, is there? Here he is, Craig Williams, teaming up with Ciaron Maher in a $20 million Everest, and there he was only a few days ago beating up Ciaron Maher on one of his favourites, Mr. Brightside, getting over the top of Pride of Jenni. But we're all friends.
Well, let's hope so.
Tell us about that feeling on Saturday. We hope we're going to see him up here in the King Charles, Mr. Brightside. It was, it gave us another race for the ages.
Look, it's great. Anything that's promoting horse racing is great. Now, we can watch a few of the races where I line up against Pride of Jenni and it's not the same result because she's just such a talented, tough mare. I was actually, as an opposition, I was delighted after Caulfield the other day. I thought, good, we don't have to worry about her too much, but you could see how much she improved from her first run to her second run. But her form actually does suggest that anyway. And I was a bit, it's quite funny. I was telling a couple of jockeys yesterday at the jump outs, I said, because everyone loves the competition. Declan Bates, the rider of Pride of Jenni, he's a great jockey, great bloke. And, as much as he congratulated me on Saturday, I'm congratulating him because he's beating me too. So it's a great partnership. There's a lot of hard work that goes into every horse, but especially at the top, everyone's watching them. So there's an added pressure from everyone else who wants to be involved in horse racing or thinks that they own the horses. So there's always that to go with it. So we like to celebrate everyone's success, but she's tough. She changed the dynamics of racing, which I've found out. And I've got to ride Mr. Brightside to his strengths and hopefully find some of her weaknesses. But I was that confident after his first up run, the way that he felt, the way he pulled up, and the way that she went, that I was really confident, especially when we got the ground condition. And I was getting inside the 200, and I was actually looking in my right eye, going, I hope there's not a really good wet track off the back of me that's had the drag in. I thought, okay, so I can just use her for as much as I want, so I don't get the front too early. And I'm like, just don't want anything to launch. And I'm thinking, hang on a second, I still got to pass her. And it was like, oh my God, I've still got to go beat her. And that just showed her how you can never take her, she is an amazing racehorse, and the way that she races, not many horses can race like that in the current age, and it does make our racing really challenging every time we line up against Pride of Jenni.
But we'll never see that Queen Elizabeth again, will we? You guys riding against her, thinking about how it panned out that day, you'd never let that happen again, would you, as a rival jockey or as a rival group?
Well, you can only ride your own horse, and I must admit, I already learnt how to ride against Pride of Jenni, and I have to ride my horse. I cannot ride my horse to beat Pride of Jenni. If I do, with Brightside, I'm not beating her. It is that simple. Right. So please, anyone else go out there, love they got ego, love they got all that stuff, please go after her. I think it's fantastic.
It does make it fascinating, doesn't it?
It does. She's just created this whole new spectrum in racing.
Yeah, as Craig said, the new dynamic. It's just the way she turns weight for age races into a stamina test, but it's fascinating.
When are you back in Sydney?
I'm up there Saturday week.
Saturday week for the premiere. Oh no, for the Golden Rose meeting.
I got my son. I got my suntan lotion and everything, and I'm coming up. Lovely.
Beautiful. We'll see you up here. It's just getting hotter.
Really looking forward to it, guys.
Good on you.
Thanks, Craig.
Craig Williams, the rider of Bella Nipotina, who's into the race. He's got a lot of confidence in her, hasn't he?
Quite rightly so, and she won't let anyone down. 14 starts last season. The worst she ran was 5th, and probably unlucky to do so. She won 3, ran 2nd 3 times, ran 3rd 3 times. Just going so well, and that Concord run was a blinder.
It was huge, wasn't it?
She was the only horse to earn over $8 million that didn't win a Melbourne Cup or an Everest.
Can I just put a dampener on things just for the moment? Mm-hmm. And I want to mention this when we play this next replay of Sunshine in Paris winning the Scirocco, because this was something special. Her doing this. Now, we had a tearaway leader, but watch her attack the line. We're talking about in one breath with Craig Williams, Bella Nipotina. We're talking about this sensational mare in Sunshine in Paris.
And Jolly Star.
But mares have a poor record in the Everest up until now. In Secret ran 4th, and way back in the first Everest, Tulip, the 3-year-old filly, ran 5th. They have been the best placings of a mare up to date.
It's staggering.
It is, because the list of them, I think there's been 19 mares to run. There's a lot of big names there.
A couple started favourite in the race.
Shoal started favourite.
So it's a
I
staggering.
don't think Shoals is the equal of these mares.
Shoal started favourite. Arcadia Queen started favourite. So we've had, in the 7 runnings, 2 mares starting favourite.
I don't think those 2 mares are the equal of these 3 mares we're going to have in the race.
I think we've stepped it up a notch.
Yep.
I think these are the best 3 mares we've had in Everest.
Yeah, and you're counting Jolly Star in...
Jolly Star's in the race.
Yeah, that I agree with that statement. I think they are. They will turn out to be the best 3 mares to have tackled the race.
You just got to look at their records and things like that. If you look at Jolly Star, she's won 4 races. She went to a mile as a 3-year-old filly because that's what you've got to do as a 3-year-old filly. She is a sprinter. There's no doubt in my mind she is a sprinter, and there's no doubt in my mind that if she gets even luck against Sunshine in Paris, she'll beat her home in the Everest.
Fairway Thoroughbreds has a slot, and they own Sunshine in Paris. After the Scirocco, Greg Pritchard caught up with John Camilleri.
She was incredible today. We honestly didn't expect that.
Were you going to be on Everest Day?
We could be at Randwick, all going well, but we planned to be at Randwick last year, and we missed out 2 weeks before it, but she had a ligament injury, so we hope to get there.
Your wife talked you into getting this slot?
It was her decision, my wife Deb. Yeah, she said we need that slot, so we bought it off Aquis.
If the horse doesn't have another run before the Everest, I guess it's going to be Chewy right for that race.
I don't think she will be having another run before Everest, according to Annabelle, and I don't think there's another race for her that's suitable. So she'll be straight in the Everest, maybe a trial or something, whatever she thinks.
35 days between runs. The longest gap for a winner of the Everest from its last start was Red Zell in the first Everest, 28 days. And Nature Strip, when he won, he was 28 days.
Everest.
Yeah, shorts to the Everest. So Sunshine in Paris is going to try and break ground and make it 35 days.
We just heard from Craig Williams about riding the race to suit his horse. Trainers have to train to suit the race
That's right.
for their horse as well.
And it
Sunshine,
wouldn't be easy.
No,
Would
and
not be
she's
easy.
so dynamic fresh, and that's the way she can win an Everest.
Yeah.
Kept fresh,
She's-
rocking along.
And just
First up-
keeping in mind, these stats that I'm producing, they're off 7 runnings.
Yeah, I know. But
It's
still-
hardly a big sample,
it's
but it's...
evolving.
But
That's
horses
right.
that run second and third have had longer breaks into it. Vega Magic and horses like that have had the
I
big
wish
long
I
break.
win.
Yeah. But her stats first up, she's had 4 first up runs for 3 wins and a second in a Galaxy. She's just dynamic, fresh, and that's how Annabelle's training her.
Here's the 3-year-olds in the run to the Rose, and Traffic Warden has become Godolphin's top pick at this stage to run in the Everest. There he is in the Godolphin blue, about to run past Bustling. That's Storm Boy in front. What do you think? And what do you think the wash-up of this race is for all individuals?
Okay, well, firstly, Traffic Warden straight to the top of the pile, as you said, for Godolphin. And they'd run a great race to run second, by the way. Storm Boy, legitimate excuses. So that cliche Chantel fork in the road, Golden Rose, definitely for him. Lineback was a great run, but he's not going to the Everest. Bustling, obviously, that wasn't the Bustling we saw in Perth, so he's got to go to the Heritage and really step it up.
He does. I think it's they're borderline with him at the moment.
Yep.
Hopefully he's come through the run all right, and then, as you
Getting
say,
a
the
complete
Heritage.
vet
But at
check,
this
but
stage,
anyway,
off that effort, you'd say you'd be tossing up whether or not to continue. Anyway, it's not obviously our decision, but I hope he can perform better in the Heritage.
Well, here's a bit of sweet and sour for the show. Firstly, the sweet, James Cummings.
I was asked, is Arf Cabin our number 1 seed? And I said, no, not when Traffic Warden's in the equation, but let's get through the Golden Rose, and that's our fork in the road. We'll be sensible, make our decision based on what's best for the operation, and times are tough, so we can't afford to make too many mistakes.
Selling the trophies, wasn't he?
No, he's channeling Bart. That's what he's doing. Now, the complete opposite after the race when Greg Pritchard caught up with Michael Kent Jr.
Michael Kent Jr. Bustling, not the result you wanted today, but there's still time to get what you want before the Everest.
Yeah, far from ideal, obviously. He looked to get a bump, which had to get a bump at a crucial point, and he definitely got in the wrong lead on that home bend, which you can't afford to do against these sort of horses, and that's not an economical way to run. So we've got a bit of work to do. He got everything right in his trial. He was flawless there, but today he got things wrong. So if you're on your wrong lead, you see he was just uncomfortable around that bend. So look, hopefully he pulls out well. We'll go to the beach in the morning, and still the plan to run in 2 weeks, I think, at this stage. But look, we're just dusting ourselves off. Anyway, bit of work to do.
He fronted up to the camera. He was a deflated man, but that was shortly after, only moments after Bustling's performance in that race on Saturday. Now, let's go to the trials, because this has given us something to think about. Firstly, Overpass out in front. Björn Baker will run Overpass on Everest Day. If it's not in the big one, if he's not snapped up, he will run in the Sydney Stakes.
Again, a horse who's at his best fresh. This is a brilliant trial. So his first up record is outstanding. So Björn Baker's just putting all his eggs in one basket, rolling the dice, so to speak, and hoping a slot holder will pick him up. On the evidence of that trial, he is flying.
He's dynamic, isn't he? And he's so, as you touched on, Ray, so dynamic when he is fresh. So he'll probably have another trial, maybe an exhibition gallop, and then we'll see him Everest.
Well, you talk about the training of racehorses. Here's Annabelle going 5 weeks to give Sunshine in Paris her best chance. You've got Ciaron Maher going 2 weeks to give Bella Nipotina her best chance. And you've got Björn Baker saying, if we're going to win at Everest, we're going to win it first up.
Yep.
Now, that hasn't been done before.
Correct, yeah.
What about this horse? Now, Espionage in these colours for James Harron has gone amiss. And he's gone to the paddock. He's got a serious injury. But another horse owned in the same interest is Bodyguard, who stepped out at the trials yesterday, same day as Overpass. You're telling me he wasn't out there to make a statement?
He certainly was. I spoke to James Harron yesterday afternoon. He's right in the mix, this horse. He'll run in the Heritage, which could be a really hot race on Golden Rose Day.
The Heritage is really shaping up to be a hot race.
So I think we might even see Lady of Camelot there as well. But he's suddenly in the mix, and if he can, as you said, Greg, make a statement in the Heritage, James Harron's always wanted to put a colt one of his colts into the race. So he's lost Espionage, which is unfortunate. But Bodyguard, if you remember, early last season, he was right at the top of the rankings of the 2-year-olds, had a little setback after the Blue Diamond, put a line through that Golden Slipper run, but that was some trial win yesterday.
When you invest as much as James Harron does in racing and in colts, and you've got a slot in the Everest, almost the first goal, I think it's almost bigger than the Golden Slipper for him now. He's won one of those. He'd love to see those green colours go across the line first in Everest.
Let's take a break. Come back with Ben Dorries after this.
Mary McGill, be my ferry to the world, be my very own constellation. A teenage bride with a baby inside, getting high on information. And buy me a... I fall for law and a law one. I fall for law and a law one.
Ben Dorries from RaceNet joins us on Trek to the Everest. We mentioned to Ciaron Maher earlier in the show, Ben, what about the Everest if it becomes a Group 1? We were talking about growing empire. You've written on this subject. Are we close?
Yeah, I think we're really, really close, Rads. I think it was all pretty much assumed that the Everest would be a Group 1 at some point. But yeah, I penned a story last week. I spoke to certain people who told me they're 90% confident a deal would be done before next month's Everest. So that's a real coup if that happens. And I've got to say, if that happens before the race, or even if for some reason it's delayed, but I expect it to happen before this year's race, it is a massive feather in the cap for Peter V'landys. I mean, remember in the early years when we had the Everest, and yeah, it got some, great publicity and great acclaim, but it had those detractors, didn't it? They were saying it wouldn't work, it couldn't work, it was silly, it was this, it was that. And Peter V'landys stayed steadfast the whole way through and said, this is the race to engage the new generation of racing. We can't sit still, we can't do what we've always done, we need to reinvigorate the Spring Carnival in Sydney. We're marching forward with this. So I've got to say, when this race becomes a Group 1, for everything that Peter V'landys has achieved in racing, it would be right up there with his proudest moments. Now, look, assuming it is a Group 1, what does that mean? I mean, it is effectively regarded as a Group 1 anyway, isn't it? Even though it doesn't carry that status. I'm sure if you talk to any owners, breeders, trainers, it carries Group 1 status in their mind anyway. It's the world's best sprint race on turf, $20 million. But I guess it just gives it that extra tick, doesn't it, officially having Group 1 status. And the background to how it became a Group 1 is fascinating, guys.
So how does it work, though? Is it just, are they in discussions about the Everest and the All-Star Mile? Are yours for theirs? Or is this a revamp of the Pattern Committee? I mean, are the other Group 1s, the demotion and the promotion of other group races, is that all in this discussion, or do these two get rubber stamped prior to the whole picture?
Well, at the moment, Rads, these two are the two that they're talking about. I expect the All-Star Mile in Victoria to be a Group 1 and the Everest to be a Group 1 sooner rather than later. There has been agreement on that, exactly that subject. There's just some administrative stuff to still happen. And look, it is officially the end, I've got to say, and it is great news for racing. It is officially the end of the Cold War in racing between New South Wales and Victoria. And I can tell you, the ice melted when Peter V'landys, who obviously wears a very important hat in rugby league as well, went to Melbourne for the State of Origin match down there. He invited Tim Eddy, the chairman of Racing Victoria, the new chairman, to come and enjoy the festivities with him. And he said, bring out Aaron Morrison, the CEO or the incoming CEO of Racing Victoria. And people who are in the room tell me that these guys from Victoria, they realised that Peter V'landys wasn't the big ogre, he wasn't the fire-breathing dragon that some people seem to suggest he is. And they said, this is quite a good guy, we can work with this guy. And let's face it, racing has got challenges, hasn't it, from outside of racing. The last thing it really needs to be doing going forward is fighting within, fighting itself. So look, there's a great new era of cooperation. It will lead to the Everest and the All-Star Mile getting Group 1 status, and I expect there'll be a whole lot of other things in terms of horse welfare, various other issues that up on the same page as. So that's terrific, but the short-term benefit, I think we can expect to see in the next few weeks the Everest becoming a Group 1, which it richly deserves.
Sounds like Reagan and Gorbachev. The Berlin Wall's about to come tumbling down. Now, let's go on to the... continue on with the female theme. We've spoken about Bella Nipotina tonight, Sunshine in Paris. There are two other females trying to get into the race. Adrian Bott and Gay would love to get Lady of Camelot there, and Björn Baker, we've spoken about Overpass. What about Steffi Magnetica?
Yeah, well, for starters, Lady of Camelot, guys. Lady of Camelot will accept for the shorts this weekend, but it is very much barrier dependent and a few other things dependent. There is a growing chance, as Ray referenced earlier, I think, that Lady of Camelot will be kept on ice until the Heritage Stakes the following week, and that would be significant because Lady of Camelot's owner, Sir Owen Glenn, would actually be in town for the Heritage Stakes. He'd love to be on track to see his girl race. So look, there is still a chance she could race in the shorts this weekend, but I expect it is probably more likely that we will see her in action the following weekend. Look, here is Lady of Camelot in the Group 1 Moir Stakes. Zach Lloyd copped a little bit of criticism for his ride here. There was some suggestion maybe he should have gone to the front and tried to skip away around the valley, but we spoke to him on radio only a few days ago, and he said, look, I just didn't have that option. She just wasn't brilliant enough, I guess, to find the lead, and you know, he just couldn't lead on her, and you know, he was a victim of circumstances in the end. Not that it was a bad ride by any means. Now, Steffi Magnetica, you mentioned Rads, the brilliant Stradbroke Handicap winner. She will almost certainly be seen in the shorts this weekend, which is 2 weeks earlier than she was originally going to resume in the Premier. Here she is having a spin around Randwick, and look, the camp just feels effectively, apart from anything else, she is just going so well that it is almost impossible not to race her. They want to get her to the races. They feel that she can make an Everest statement this weekend, resuming in the shorts. I guess the question, the 1100 metres, will it be too short? That is a little bit of a question as well in the camp's eyes. Obviously, she's coming back from winning a Stradbroke Handicap over 1400 metres. But I, for one, I reckon the Queensland form in recent years out of the Winter Carnival has stood up quite often in Melbourne and in Sydney, and I expect it to with her as well. She was phenomenal winning the Stradbroke, one of the better Stradbroke wins I've seen, and if she's improved, look out, she'll be something to watch this spring.
And finally, just to wrap up the Bella Nipotina picture, she's been picked for the tab slot in the Tab Everest. Michael Christian would be a very happy man.
Oh, absolutely, and let's not forget, I mean, it's AFL finals time, isn't it? Or Rugby League finals time too, for that matter, but Michael Christian, his sort of contract work, I guess, away from racing, is he is the, here he is here, accepting the trophy. He is the match review officer for the AFL. So look, it's a very, very high pressure job. There's so many eyes on, he's effectively responsible for suspending AFL players and grading incidents, and it is, yeah, he cops it from everywhere effectively in that job. So this is a lovely release for him. We've spoken to him in the last few weeks, and he says, look, horse racing is effectively, and breeding is my escape from that world. And you know what? If he cops a bad ride on one of his horses, or occasionally Bella Nipotina doesn't perform, it's nothing like what he cops, depending on who he suspends in the AFL, guys.
Benny, thank you. We'll talk to you next week. There's Ben Dorries from RaceNet. We'll take a break and we'll come back with some Kosciusko news. We're looking for good Kosciusko trials as we head into the big one, also on Everest Day, the race for country trained gallopers worth $2 million. And there was no better trial on the weekend than Boom Talk, Ray, and the Theo Marks. This is Group 2.
He stepped up and he was very competitive.
Purple colours.
Yep, a terrific run, and he's right on track now for a Kosciusko, which will be a slightly lesser grade. And on the evidence of this run, he's right in the mix, Chantel.
Well, we've always said you need to be as good as a group horse to win a Kosciusko, and he put his name up in lights. They scratched him from the 1100, hoping he'd gain a start in the Theo, and he did, and he was brilliant, wasn't he? So now it's just keeping him up.
He's a much better horse when he's outside horses and getting down the outside. Matt Dunn's told me he's been placed superbly. He went to a Class 6 in Brisbane and took every grade to get here, and then now he's hitting the tie grade as a really mature horse and ready to go.
Here's Matthew Dunn after the race, speaking with Greg Pritchard, and also about Tribeca Star, who ran in Brisbane on the same day.
First trip away, first go at this grade, like this is a step to what he's ever met previously, and he's one of those horses that does that. Every time you ask him to go to a new level, he does, and he was great today. Not everything went perfectly to plan through the race, got held up at some vital stages and sort of got cluttered away a little bit mid-race, which he doesn't really appreciate, so probably could have finished a little bit closer to the first and second horse, but look, puts him in good stead going into the Kosciusko, doesn't it? It's an ideal lead-up run. What we do with him from here, I'm not sure yet. Whether we go to the races again or maybe a trial, 5-week space is tricky. And he's obviously got to travel home, so we'll figure that out over the next week or so and work out a plan to move forward to the Kosciusko.
You got Tribeca Star in too.
Yeah, Tribeca Star's in as well. He ran in Brisbane today, and probably lack of tempo in that race cost him the win. He was only beaten a very small margin, but again, both horses certainly deserve their spot. And Tribeca Star's a bit different to Boom Talk. He takes a bit of fitting up. Today he was only second up, so he'll keep improving.
Okay, let's go to Bathurst on Sunday. This is the Panorama. Compelling Truth is one of Kirby. You've got to be a fast horse to win it over 1,000. Here he was, Jenni, taking a sit over 1,300 at Bathurst on Sunday and looking every bit as good.
I was so happy to see him take a sit because the Kosciusko is going to be a high pressure race, and for him to be able to take a sit, it's added another feather to his bow, and he could take a sit and potentially be just as dynamic as he was on Sunday. So I think it was a great plan that Ben Osman came back, let them run, and he was great.
Now, it takes a very special horse to win a Kosciusko with limited experience. It's Me did it, but it's hard to do. Now, this horse, Kreon, this grey, for Danny Williams, he's going to attempt to try and do somewhat of an It's Me.
It's only had 3 starts, but absolutely bolting at Goulburn, and it's a horse that Danny's got a huge opinion of, and had 1 start late last year, put aside specifically for this race, for the Kosciusko. That's how highly Danny rates him.
I think after Atmospheric Rock beat him in that highway, when he came there as a hot pot, I think Danny was flabbergasted.
He was. He was so confident with
because
the horse.
This horse can't get near Kreon on the track.
Yeah.
James
he must be a good track worker, right?
Yeah,
track worker. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's a talent.
Anyway, we'll see. Yeah. He's in the field. Well, let's have a look at it. Here are the Cosy slots, and we're slowly filling them. The Cosy slots go a lot quicker than the Everest slots, don't they? There's wheeling and dealing with the Everest, and there's a lot of races to come. But with the Kosciusko, it's straight in. Let's wrap them up. 14 horses to be picked, 3 to go. Kreon's in there. So the tab account customers from Barella, Ermington and Lake Albert yet to make a move. Now let's have a look at the Kosciusko market. Front page is going for 3 Kosciuskos in a row. Is the $2.80 favourite. Boom Talk did nothing to dent the confidence of his supporters. Far Too Easy was great on the weekend.
Was, yeah.
Over 1,000 metres. He's going to be better when he gets to 1,200, and he's had a long road back. We've spoken about Compelling Truth. At Wits End deserves to be there. What a great winter carnival he had. Bandy's boy not picked.
I believe certain slot holders did reach out to Danny, and he suggested he's possibly going in another direction.
Right.
Because I was like, why is Benny's boy not in? I thought he'd nearly win the race. But
sounds like Kreon's beaten it on the track too.
Yeah, definitely.
And finally, here's the Everest market to wrap up the show. I Wish I Win is the favourite in front of the Tab horse. So that will have an S next to its name in just a moment. Sunshine in Paris, Giga Kick, and the 3-year-old Growing Empire. 3 mares on that page. A very interesting 3-year-old in Growing Empire that Ciaron Maher tonight said is still in the mix.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah, and of course Traffic Warden in to $11 now too, Jenni.
Oh, it's getting exciting, very
exciting. All about the shorts this week, and then we'll get to the Golden Rose and work out what the 3-year-olds are doing. And the Heritage as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
And that's it, Trek to the Everest. We'll be back next Tuesday for another edition.
The Tab Everest, Mare off and racing. Think about it, Private Eye. I Wish I Win. Think about it in front from I Wish I Win. Think about it.
I Wish I Win on the outside, grabbing the lead, and I Wish I Win one from Nipotina.
Here she comes, Jolly Star, shot away. Ease down, Jolly Star. She is a star in the making.